2025 is off to a flying start. I'm going to give you three things that we need to really keep our eyes on as we get into this year. The first thing we're watching for is the voucher bill and public school funding. It's important for us to make sure that we're keeping track of what's happening as Senate Bill 2 moves through and gets all the votes that it needs. So we see now that Governor Greg Abbott took his time in March to go campaign for the seats for all those people, 15 Republicans, that did not vote his way when it came to vouchers. And so what does that look like now? That looks like now 11 of the people that got into office are really strong pro voucher supporters. And it's more likely now that that bill is going to pass than ever before. And everybody's in a tizzy about it. Everybody feels very strongly about vouchers one way or the other for education, or I should say voucher-like education savings accounts that are likely going to be coming through this year. It's important for us to be mindful not only of what's happening and to express our feelings about it, but to be cognizant of what's going to happen and follow the money. All right. What's going to happen is families are going to be eligible when and if this bill passes to receive $10,000 in education savings accounts. That would be money that could be used for private schools or money that could be used for other approved educational expenses. Now, Greg Abbott also wants people to be comforted in the fact that he believes Texas can have the best of both worlds. He also wants to give another $1 billion to the public schools as well. And so his logic is we can have both things work well. Now, in the article, you're going to see me reference what happens in other states or what has happened in the past, as well as some more details about that plan. But that's the first thing we're watching. And that's a big one when it comes to the money in education this year. The second one we're going to keep our eyes on is the Bible-infused curriculum that's now being made available to elementary students in the state of Texas. Now, this is a big one to watch because, again, we always have to follow the money. This curriculum is not going to be mandatory for districts to adopt. However, school districts that adopt this new Bible-infused curriculum in their elementary schools are going to qualify for $60 incentives for each student, right? And so it's important for us to watch this because a lot of the opponents of this curriculum are saying that for those students that are not Christians, it's discriminatory. It's not inclusive of the other purviews of the other world religions, even if you're looking at the context of the historical literary context of the Bible. And so it's going to be important for us to watch this, also to see how in some other states that adopted similar curriculums, how they put themselves in positions for litigation, right? It's just when it comes to the separation of church and state, it gets kind of sticky. We want to watch this and see what's happening in local schools, who's adopting the curriculum and who's not, and why, and what that looks like for your local school district. The third thing we're looking at, y'all, the DEI shutdown. In 2023, the state of Texas adopted the Senate bill that shut down all the DEI programs, and we're looking and talking specifically about higher education. A lot of times in education, we spend a lot of time on K through 12 issues, but this situation with the DEI ban at the higher education institutions is also something that we need to be watching, and I'll tell you why. Now that President Trump has taken office, it's important for us to see how the federal level is tied to the private sector and it's tied to our local political climate, right? Especially in a red state like Texas. It's important for us to see as the climate starts to change around pushing back against DEI. For instance, at the University of Texas in Austin, 60 people lost their jobs that were tied to DEI. And then that swept across the state to other institutions as well. It's important for us to consider and watch as we go through this year and the years that come, what are going to be the implications of the shutdown of those incentives and those initiatives and the trainings that they were preparing to do in our universities. It's important because students reported feeling less welcome and feeling the stress and pressure of not having those supports that they were starting to get used to. But as with all things, I'll encourage you to always follow the money. When it comes to corporations ending their DEI programs or universities, one thing the analytics are telling them that we'll cover in the article is that when they do not see a hit to their bottom line. When companies like McDonald's and Walmart and now Target end their DEI programs, The ones that went first were starting to track analytics, and what they saw was there was no impact to their bottom line when they decided to cut back on those DEI programs after all. Has there been a drop in enrollment at the universities that had to cut back on DEI programs? If not, what we see is that we will continue to have people push back on DEI promises and convictions and commitments when they see their bottom line will not be impacted. And these are three things that we're going to be following over the course of 2025 and quite possibly in the years to come. We want to see what the long-term impacts are going to be. And in the short term, we want to be mindful that these things are transpiring in education. And you can read the article to learn more. I'm Dr. Boyce.